Hi everyone, if you're new to my channel, I'm Evan Thomas. I saved my way to $1 million net worth in about 15 years, where I now sit at about 1.5 million in 2024. I teach people by example how they can do it themselves with keeping their income up and their expenses down, and they also have to have a little bit of discipline as well. So if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I would appreciate it, and hit the like button as well. You know, I used to ask myself if I would do something for years and years and years without a reward. If I would do the work necessary to see something gradually build over time but not have any immediate gratification. That's something I used to think about back when I was broke at 40, and even 3 years prior when I was traveling on a business trip to Seattle, Washington in October of 2003, where I had an opportunity to go up into the Space Needle, which I did. I sat up in the Space Needle for a couple of hours and I looked out over Mount Rainier. It was the first time that I really felt like I had an opportunity to make a change in my life when it came to finances. And I had just heard a story about a man named Roger Bannister, who that on May 6th of 1954, he actually ran the very first 4-minute mile. So he was an athlete, and nobody had ever thought that anybody could ever run a 4-minute mile. So think about that for just a minute. Then most people will follow the path of believing in that and thinking that they can never do it because everybody thinks that you can't. So that changed the perception of what people thought about what is actually possible in their lives. And there were approximately 400 people after that began running a 4-minute mile because they believed in it, because they saw that somebody else did it. So what does that tell us about what's really possible? It tells us that we really do have the ability, again, to make things happen in our life. So when you consider your personal finances, for many of you, you may have been like me, broke at 40, you had no money whatsoever. And even for me, 3 years prior, up in the Space Needle, I really then started to think about that story of Roger Bannister. It took me a little while, but I went back home and I decided to tackle personal finance. 2004, when I was 38 years old, was really the year that I kind of stabilized and thought about what is actually possible. And that is the beginning of where I started to think about what was possible for my future. And it was also during that time that I had to ask myself, and I want you guys to ask yourself, would you do something for 15, 18, maybe 20 years without any reward whatsoever? Now, let me explain what I mean by that, because as you begin to save money and as you begin to invest, you'll start to see that your balances will definitely go up. There will be times like in 2018 when my portfolio lost 3.5%. There will be times like in 2022 when my portfolio lost 15%, that it bumps you down a little bit. But most years, the market is going up. It continues to go up. And so as you continue to get your emergency fund up, you continue to pay off your debt, you're finally going to have room in your budget where you have wiggle room and you have the opportunity to save and invest as long as you keep your behaviors in check as you go along. So there will be times in the future where you'll see your portfolio go to 100,000. Then you'll see your portfolio get to 250,000. Then you'll see your portfolio get to 400,000. And as you continue to go up, you have to continue to know that the reward is really not there until much later. And this is what I would like to say about the fact that you are doing all of these things through the years with no reward, but then you finally get to the point where you're financially independent. And to me, that meant that I had built the engine that I talk about all the time that became large enough to pay all of my expenses. And now, that doesn't mean that you have to quit your job. That doesn't mean you have to change everything radically. But you know within yourself that you have created what you know that most people can't possibly ever do. And so as I think about wrapping up this episode, that's what I'd like to leave you with today. I would like to leave you with thinking about your future and knowing that you're going to be just fine, but you can't see the reward until much later. And that reward comes when your investments get to critical mass. And it's that critical mass that can then pave your way to the future. And so again, that's what I had for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of The Frugal Millionaire. I'm Evan Thomas. I'll see you next time, and take care. Testing. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. We're recording. We are recording.